Hello, hello, hello. Just getting my Be Right Back screen ready because there's a good chance that I'm going to be hit with a landlord phone call halfway through this. So bear with me. If I have to go offline for a moment, you know why it's happening. But this morning we're checking out 4 puzzle games. And I don't know how similar they're all going to be. They're just ones I grabbed off the list that had the word puzzle in the title. I'm a little bit discombobulated. I've just been doing a bunch of QA sort of stress testing on my own game before I came on, and I was like halfway through fixing a bug, and I quickly pushed a fix that is probably broken and I will need to fix again in 2 hours. So here we go. What do we have today? We've got Beyond the Board, which is chess inspired demo. We've got Skull Seeker. We've got Gravity Whipped. And we've got a Simple Experiment. And I think I've got the Steam demos downloaded already. I did have Gravity Whip downloaded yesterday, but it seems to have gone walkie, so I'm just sorting that out now. Thank you, Dev in the chat, for the survey. That is an interesting question. So the thing about dream games is I think it's some of it is age and some of it is cultural, and I think that for me a lot of it comes across as a bit kind of ideological because it's, I don't know, like I put up videos before about the concept of a dream game and dreaming about doing things, and I don't have any problem in principle with people working on their dream game or having a dream about doing a particular thing. What I dislike is when that language is used with the intent of manipulating people into supporting you doing that thing, right? Because when you're making a game or any kind of art or music and you want people to give you money for doing that thing at the end of the day because what you've made is being commercially released, it needs to stand on its own merit, not some sob story about how hard you tried or how important it is to you to become this, that, or the other. So for me, it's less to do with the actual reality of what's going on in your head and how you think and feel about it, and more the kind of positioning that you try and do in public by using that language, if that makes sense. That's why I don't like people talking about dream games and having dreams. I find it emotionally manipulative, and I think when you use that as a crutch, it prevents you getting better at things because you're going around telling people how important this thing is to you. And actually what you really need to do is show how important it is to you by doing the thing, taking on feedback, putting in practice in the areas where you're weak. And all the time that you're talking about your dreams and how important it is to you and this emotional element to everyone else who's a bit more cynical or jaded, or to anyone else who's just like the end user of the thing you're making. If you're making music and it's out of tune, no one cares how much, most people, unless they like out of tune music, are not going to care how much you care about it, right? So it's like you're trying to offload how much you care about it onto someone else. So for me, that's what that is about. It's not about like the underlying reality of what's going on in your head when you have a dream and stuff like that. I just, I find it manipulative a little bit. And I made this point before when I did a video about it, about like reality TV and like how contestants on reality TV shows talk that way, but like how important it is to me to do this, and it's like, well, go on then, do it. So this is Gravity Whipped. I think, and I'm probably not the only person who thinks this, but oh, hang on, it's not showing properly on the screen. Sorry about that. I need to put the game capture mode on probably. There we go. I'm probably not the only person who thinks this, but sometimes gravity as a central gimmick in games can feel a bit weak. Right, it's not letting me focus that without hiding it. This is a great start. There we go. How many windows do we need? We just love this game so much, we're going to see it twice. There we go. So yeah, I think sometimes when people use gravity as the central gimmick, it's kind of like, yeah, and what? It's, you know, because it's such a central part of action game design. It's like making a shooting game that's themed around guns and calling it like Gun Time or something. And I'm not, you know, that's just a first impression that I have when I encounter a game where there's like some kind of gravity mechanic or gravity swapping mechanic as the central gimmick, because we've seen it so many times, and it tends to be that this is just a thing that people are experimenting with in their game, and then they don't go to the next layer of like, okay, what's the theming that makes this sing and makes it stand out, you know? Here we go. Interesting. Press that to open doors. This is kind of cute. We've got a kind of Rayman looking fella. I'm not sure about the depth of this. It's a bit strange for an action game, but let's see what it is. I would play Gun Time, but that's the thing, isn't it? If you're going down the route of like excess of a particular thing, then you can get quite a lot out of that. So I don't know why I went in that room, in that house, but I get my whip now, so. That's my whip. Ooh, okay, that's interesting. I'm getting a little bit of lag. I don't, you know, that's the sort of thing I don't really mind about on these streams, because ultimately if you kind of get your game to a point where you want to commercially release it, that's when you go through and optimize everything. So it's okay to be a bit laggy when we're just testing. So the way that this works is I whip the wall and then we turn 90 degrees onto that wall. Although it seems to not be working consistently now. It was a moment ago. Ah, it's only working on certain surfaces. So this kind of metal surface that's on the block is the one that I have to be interacting with to whip the gravity. It's a cool mechanic. It's making me think of games like Fez, that kind of like, just that general trippy, mind-bending vibe. I'm not sure I like the depth of going in and out on the, whatever you call this axis, the Z axis I guess it is. I'm not sure what that adds at the moment. It's a cool gameplay concept, the actual going around, you know, whipping and then rotating the level and going around. I think the depth of moving in and out maybe calls for a different camera angle. So sometimes we get a level like this where it's all on one plane. Is this like a bonus speed level? I still need to play the second Talos Principle. I never finished the first one. I think I got to a point where there was too many like reaction puzzles and I just got sick of it. So there doesn't seem to be a consistent like visual language or reason for which surfaces are whippable. Because in these levels we can whip these green surfaces, and in the previous level it was, oh, you can't whip the yellow sand, but you can whip the metal stuff. So we got some some kind of visual design things to think about there as well. I love that. That's great. Does it do anything? No. Just a great little toy. I really like the level design of these so far. Feels quite nice, and it's kind of testament to how much mileage you get of having a relatively abstract game, because you can just, you know, this doesn't have to look like a place. It can just be a thing that exists entirely to facilitate the gameplay. These kind of feel like I don't know, like a bonus level you'd get on some obscure Sega Saturn Sonic game that no one remembers, you know? So it feels quite nice. It feels very intuitive. It's not making me sick in the brain like Fez did with the rotating that way round, but I feel like what we're being given at the moment is like a sort of smorgasbord of all the things the game could be. And whether it needs to be all of those things yet is sort of up for grabs still, maybe. Okay. You can jump through those platforms, that's cool. Not super intuitive, because they look like they're made out of wood, right? So I understand that from a platformer point of view, we're doing a drop-through platform, but with a drop-through platform, it's usually implied that you're going in front or behind it in a 2D game. So I think there's just lots of things where we could have a better visual tell for like how things in the world work. There's no consistency to what the whip works on and what the whip doesn't work on. And then we've got stuff like jumping through something that looks like it's made out of wood. Seamus, why don't you tell us how you really feel? Yeah, we'll talk about some visual stuff in a moment. I'm just trying to get a feel for the gameplay. I will, as always, I'm going to say as always, even though I've only just started doing it, but I will put the links to the games on the VOD, on the timestamps after the stream. And I think this one might still be private, so if you don't see a link for this one, it might be because the developer hasn't opened it up yet. I'm not entirely sure why people don't do that. The only reason I understand for keeping any sort of development secret is because some publishers like to have games that haven't been seen by anyone, and they sort of make you sign a sort of like an NDA that says that you haven't shown the game to a bunch of people with some publishers. But this seems like the kind of game that would be self-published anyway, so you may as well just get as much feedback as possible and get people on board with it as early as you can. I don't feel like, as I play this game, I don't feel like I'm aware of how many keys and stuff I have, and some of that is because it's so visually noisy that all of that information at the top of the screen is just like a big mess. And we'll talk a bit more about this in a minute, but I'm quite enjoying the core gameplay. It feels quite nice, so I think we're going to be alternating between those 2D flat plane levels and these more 3D ones. And it's a nice variation. I think there's some stuff to do with the visual design of this that make these kind of Z-axis deep levels a little bit harder to understand. And a very simple one is that these blocks have the same texture on every side. So what I would do is make sure the blocks at right angles to each other have a different shade of green. Like the greens are, you know, darker and a little bit more blue on this side and the opposite side, and then on the top and the bottom side they're the current color, because that will make the whole thing way more legible. Because you see this space, to if you look just to the right of me, where that right angle of the wall is, if you kind of squint test, it just all blurs into the same green, right? So I think whenever you're dealing with 3D environments, having a texture that continues on a right angle between a wall and a floor is nearly always a bad idea. And even super realistic games like Uncharted won't do that, because it makes the game hard to visually understand. So I think these levels are going to need more of that kind of consideration, because they're quite visually confusing. Although I do quite like that kind of trying to process that is part of the challenge here, you know? And that is kind of a fundamentally interesting or frustrating, depending on how you look at it, part of game UX. Is like, you know, if you're making an app and your goal is just to like give people a service, you don't want any friction. But games are about controlled application of friction, right? So the stuff I'm saying about the game being visually confusing, it's all stuff that you just have to test and see what happens. But I think with these levels, like looking at what's on screen and working out how deep things are and how the space all works is part of the challenge. But I do still think maybe having a different texture on two sides of the blocks is going to make it a little bit less noisy and hard to understand. I fell out of the level. So I wasn't convinced by the first 3D level, because when we went from the first 3D level to the 2D levels, I thought, oh, I like this. But actually, having played some 2D levels and then coming back to this, it feels like a nice swap. I just think we need a little bit more visual clarity. It's really cool that you can sort of like jump and then almost like feel like you're going to fall out of the level and then rotate it. And because it goes clockwise or anti-clockwise, depending on which way you're facing to the wall, it seems quite easy to predict what's going to happen with the turn. What was the Mario game that had those little... Is it Toad's Adventure that had those little rotational levels? It feels like it's pulling in that kind of direction. So yeah, like this bit here, where there's like a wall that goes back, that's an example of an area that would really benefit from having the alternative colour on the side of the bricks. But yeah, there's always that question of like how much do you want to confuse people, and what parts of that are part of the game. No, I just don't know how I get out of here. I'm going to spend 5 more minutes with this, and then we can kind of break down some of the visual stuff that's going on, because I think there's some stuff here that's quite good, and I think there's some stuff that's quite weak. I can't get out of this level. Yeah, this is, I think maybe finding the way out. Here we go. That wasn't too hard to find the way out, but it did feel a bit like I was sort of aimlessly just wandering until I found it. So now I think we're going to go back into 2D levels. That feels like that's the rhythm of the game, maybe? Yeah, okay. That works quite well. I like that thing of alternating between the 2D and the 3D plane levels. That feels quite good. It gives you if it was all those big 3D levels, it would be quite exhausting, I think. But this is a nice sort of game structure, I think. Yeah, I don't know what it needs in terms of obstacles and stuff. I'm having enough fun with it without it having, like, stuff trying to kill me too much. But I think people's mileage is going to vary on that. How do I do that bit? What we want is for it to be this way round and then drop down that way. Aha. Spikes of Doom. Yeah, the music's good. It's not, it's repetitive, but it's not in a way that I find noticeable. And I think that is because there isn't, like, a very, very strong standout melody. It's more just like a bass, it's like a groove, right? Like a bassline groove rather than like a very... If you have a very strong melody and it's like a 30-second loop or a 20-second loop and it does the same thing, it sort of sticks out in your head and it becomes irritating more quickly. And that there is a melody here, but it feels much more like something that's like a more of a groove than like a big kind of epic fanfare that we sort of hear loads and loads of variation in. Giggles in the chat said it seems like it needs some polish. The game is pretty solid. Yeah, we had a little bit of lag in some of those earlier, in that bigger, earlier 3D space. All of the interactions are doing what I expect them to do. You know, we've got coins go ping. The mechanic is incredibly intuitive in a very strange way. It's very just like you can get into a flow state with it very easily. And it's doing a nice intersection of being a sort of thinky game where you have to think about what you're doing, and also you can kind of trial and error it a little bit as well, but you can't totally brute force it, and that's quite a nice place to get into. Because you don't want a thinky puzzly game where you can just totally brute force everything, but being able to do it a little bit is quite nice. Just seeing, we do have variable jump height as well, so you can... I just jumped too high then, and I didn't need to. I should have just tapped the jump a little bit more gently. Yeah, I imagine it's quite a dizzy one to watch someone else play, but I'm not having too much of a problem with it. So, let's talk about the visual... let's talk about the visual design and the creative direction here. I don't think a game about a gravity gimmick should have gravity in the title. And that's weird, because often I'm a big fan of just a title that tells you exactly what's happening in the game. The reason for it is because there are dozens of Game Jam entries, I don't know, every year, every month, that are about some sort of gravity mechanic, and they all have gravity in the title. So that immediately puts your game in that kind of territory of being considered a sort of learning game. So I think what you want to do here is, okay, you've got a character that has a gravity whip. That's great, but do a little bit more thought around that. You don't have to put story in the game. I'm not saying to do that. But in terms of like the name of the game and the visual design of the character and the world, think a little bit more about how these things fit together, and don't just slam gravity in the title, because that will make people think that this is an amateur game. I think there's a lot you can do here with the visual design to make this game better. And it all hinges on just making things more coherent. So this font up here could work in this context. It kind of looks a bit like something you would see in Crash Bandicoot or something like that. But there are just too many different things. You've got the 3D. You've got some elements like this that are kind of low poly PSX 3D. You've got these very enlarged pixels on the door. Then you've got pixel icons mixed in with the sort of anti-aliased raster font in these bits. You've got these bits that appear to have been hand-drawn for purpose. And let's see what chance does, because I haven't pressed the chance button yet. We've got like a random gambling mechanic here that does something. What does awareness +1 do? Oh. It gave me a little secret thing. So we got lucky. Another mechanic that I hadn't explored at all is that die in the corner. The game feel feels really nice. Like everything feels really nice to interact with. But I think you need to pick an art style. And like I'm not a pixel art purist. I mean, if you've seen my game, you will know that I'm sort of doing mixels and stuff, but I think sometimes it's just about the range of disparity. Like you can put things together, you can mix pixel sizes, you can mix styles of art, but it's about how far apart from each other they are. Like if they have similar rules, like if you were to put a raster font into a pixel art game, whether or not it fits depends on things like the line weight and the like visual qualities of that thing. I'm just going to shut this down so we can. So one of the people I'm working with on my game, Dirt World, sort of encouraged me to start thinking about doing a high-res interface and menus, even though the game is predominantly in pixel art. And we went away and we looked at Celeste, and you know they've done that mix in Celeste, right? So let's have a look at a screenshot that has the dialogue in. So we can look at this and say, why does it work? Why does it visually work that we have this asset in this style and this pixel art and this like raster font or what? No, yeah, it's basically non-pixel art font. Why does it all work? One of the things you can look at is the weights of everything. And if you look at the lines on Celeste Portrait, the widest one here and the narrowest one here, if you get the average width of those lines, you basically get the width of a pixel in this pixel art, right? So the pixel art is coherent pixel art where it's all the same size. Yeah, and Tim, you're right as well. The UI is on its own layer as well. So that kind of gives you some leeway for it to be a different thing. But what we've got here that's consistent is the size of the pixel art here is roughly equivalent to the line weight in this picture. And although this is an illustrated picture and it has varying line weights, if we average these out, we get this, right? We're not doing this pixel art and then really narrow lines that are like a quarter of the width of this. So it kind of feels like it has some of the same qualities as the pixel art, even though it's in a different style. And the same thing here. The weight of this line is roughly equivalent to the weight of this line, and the weight of this line is roughly equivalent to the weight of this line, right? So that is a general thing you can do if you're trying to mix styles, is kind of look at the visual qualities of the things you're trying to put together and see if they fit, even if they're not the same style. The other thing is the color palette, right? So this is like it's not exactly the same as this background color because they don't want it to completely fade in. They've tried to make like a dark color for this background so the text and the image pop out, but this brown is sort of something that exists in the rest of the world, right? Whereas in the game we just looked at, we had that kind of big chunky Crash Bandicoot style yellow font. It was all anti-aliased. That was right next to pixel art icons from the game, and there was just nothing really similar about them because you had angular, chunky pixel art that's sort of charming in its own right, and then you have curved typography and neither the lines of the letters in the typography, let me get the game open again, let me get Gravity whipped open just for one more moment so we can look at the example. Yeah, pixel art fonts can be very difficult to read as well. So if we go back to one of these, so if we think again about if you're trying to mix pixel art with other things, or you're trying to mix two art styles together, what is similar about the qualities of those things? So let's just compare this diamond to this here, okay? We've got a really big chunky line in the letter. And I guess you could say that the line around the letter is almost the same weight as the pixel outline. But the pixel outline is quite clean. It is just like, you know, here is a dark green. It's kind of, you know, it's angular and jagged. If you wanted this to work, you would need this to be smooth and then to follow the same visual rules of like, okay, the yellow text has an outline around it, but it's like a darker version of the same color, because that's what you've done with the items, right? So you would have like a very dark gold brown type color around the yellow to make it kind of roughly equivalent. But I don't think putting pixel art fonts in is the answer, because I think you just make them harder to read, especially if you want to make them that big. And I think the other thing to think about is, you know, whenever you've got an interface like this, are there any of the things where it would be better to print them as a series of like 3 icons of the same thing, like when you do Zelda hearts? Because that's a lot quicker to visually read than having a heart and then a number next to it. There's lots of little things you can think about there. But yeah, it's incoherent. It doesn't stand out great. It's very visually noisy. And that's a shame, because the rest of the game was incredibly intuitive. And I like the gimmick, and I like the structure of the game. I liked what we were doing of moving between a flat level and a level with depth. That all felt very good. It just needs a little bit more polish on the visual side of things, and I think having gravity in the title and making that the central theme or gimmick, like, it's okay for it to be the gameplay gimmick, but there should be something else to kind of sell the game, in terms of like, name the game after the character and the world. Don't name the game after gravity, because it just puts it in this category of like games I made in a game jam type stuff. Okay, what have we got next? We have got all of the others are on Steam, I think, and I should have them all downloaded last night. Skullseeker. Let's check out Skullseeker. Always a little bit wary of when we see sort of cartoon tribal folks with a little mask on. Feels like a sort of like 1950s racist stereotype a little bit. I think you can get away with it if it's ultra cartoony, but I think the reason it works in something like Crash Bandicoot, to bring up Crash Bandicoot again, is it's kind of anthropomorphic animals and it's very silly. As soon as it becomes humans again, it's a bit like, This is pretty cartoony, so I think we're kind of in safe territory, but the dude is like skulls. Go and get them. I'm pressing E, am I? Are you going to force me to use a mouse and a keyboard in a character action game? Better be a MOBA then. Okay. Third-person adventure game, no controller support. Interesting choice for a game that is this supposedly this far along in development, and it looks quite polished. But I can kick. There's a ship over there. Now that looks like a European ship and not anything I would want anything to do with, because they're going to murder me. So we're not going to go over there. We're going to go to this arrow. I'm going to go and stand exactly on this arrow. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to kick those barrels? Because that's not what you're pointing at. Do you want me to kick that? Ah. I'm missing some sort of component. Yeah, I think when you're using sort of representations of kind of tribal or aboriginal people, a lot of it comes down to how are you treating them, you know? Are you making them look a particular way in terms of their beliefs and behaviors and stuff like that? That's what all of this is going to come down to. Right, I think I just picked up the switch. I press E. The barrels roll out. So we're doing some physics puzzle stuff, I think, with things floating. Or not. We're just rolling barrels into the water for no good reason. Just love. We just love wasting barrels. Yeah, I think if you're making a genre of game that looks like a console game, you should be developing first and foremost for controllers. I don't understand a world where anyone gets this far into developing any sort of 3D platformer and hasn't put controllers in. I understand you might have a personal preference for how you control a game, but that's just, it's almost like down to being a genre convention of like, this is how people that kind of at a platform level engage with these games mostly, you know? Yeah, the camera's feeling decent. Everything is visually very clear. Not finding it disorienting. Look, lovely clean line between the walkable surface and the wall. This is what I was talking about earlier. It's better to have an unrealistic, cartoonish edge to things because it makes it much visually clearer where the edge of things are, and that is information you need in order to play the game. It's always better in nearly every case, unless you're making a game that is all about immersion in, and it's like a horror game where it needs to really feel real, even though even then that's usually not true, because you can be scared by like the sound of a creeper underground in Minecraft. It is nearly always better to sacrifice a bit of realism for legibility, because people need to be able to understand what they're looking at in order to interact with it. That's why they're called video games. Can look through there. I can zoom over. I can see what's over there. Some cannons. We do have sound effects. They're very quiet. I'll just put the audio channel up on the stream. Sorry. Right, we got some cannons over there. We got just some general. I don't know how to deselect this now. Alright, need to press escape to back out of it. I'm not sure what's going on with this island. There's stuff hanging around that looks like sort of machined, you know, stuff that Europeans have brought here, like the barrels and the cannons. Right, we're gonna do our own music. People are upset that the developer hasn't put any music in yet, so. Tropicalia. I don't want feeling them. Happy laid back Afro beats. There we go. Yeah, the death cut is pretty you throw barrels in the water to create a path. Yeah, that makes sense. You don't seem to be able to interact with them except by kicking them, which is incredibly unruly. Yeah, they don't stay in the... Are the barrels like teleporting over to where they should be every time you put a barrel in the water? Because that's kind of silly. So is the goal just to get all of the barrels and boot them in the sea? Is that what we're doing? Yeet. I'm thinking potentially the goal is just to jump across here, but these are so small that this is not a good challenge for this early on in the game, and I think this might be a case of the person has played their own game too much and they don't realise how hard it is. I have no problem with the character dying when they hit the water, but this is just... If that is a challenge I'm supposed to be able to do straight off the bat in the game, then what have you done to prepare me for this? Because I don't seem to be able to jump from there to there. I'm just going to go and check the spreadsheet to see if the developer's given me any notes on things I should know before I play this, because I'm a solo developer and I would like to ask your feedback on my game. I'm currently released a playtest of my game. The playtest's open to everyone. Okay, it's just lots of things saying I would like your feedback, but not anything specific. A relaxing 3D person game with stylized graphics based on exploration and solving environmental puzzles with a small amount of platforming elements and collecting collectibles. Right, it's not relaxing so far because I don't have a clear goal. And so there's the shark. So that explains why we die in the water. I don't have a clear goal, and the only thing that seems intuitively like what I'm supposed to do is jump across here, and it's just far too hard. Hello. Hello, shark. Can I jump on you? Like, am I supposed to be able to make this jump? Because if that is the first thing I'm supposed to be doing... I mean, there's a path of barrels all the way over there, so I don't see how it can not be what we're supposed to do. But it's just too unforgiving in terms of making that first jump. Yeah, I don't... For some reason, I don't think the person who made this is a sort of... a person from a place where people look like this. Shift. Maybe there is a controls. Here we go. Jump. Double jump. I'm supposed to be double jumping. Okay. So we haven't taught the player how to do that anywhere. And also, I think part of the problem here is I don't look at this character and immediately think magical ability to double jump, right? Because you've created a sort of pseudo-realistic thing where the character is human proportioned, looks like a real person. You haven't established anything in the world that would give this character magical abilities or anything like that. So why would I assume I can double jump? We've got to appreciate the checkpoint halfway through that, because I think I would have rage quit otherwise. And when people say that their game is meant to be relaxing and then you have like really, really punishing stuff in it. But that was good. I'm glad we had a checkpoint halfway through. I'm going to do a little backflip. Yeah, so there's just nothing about the design of this character that makes a double jump something that would be an obvious assumption about the game. We've got some cool puzzles though. I kind of like what I'm seeing here. So I guess to make this open they need to all be on the same side, is that right? Do I need to... Ah, we can move these as well. This is neat. I think this is a cool... There's something cool going on here. So I can move that over there. And then move that over. And... Nope. How about this one all the way over there first? Well, that doesn't achieve anything, does it? Okay, that's not working, so let's try... This is very difficult for like a puzzle that's 5 minutes into a game. Dang, this is hard. And I think it's probably fair to say it's too hard for a puzzle this early into a game. But that's always a hard thing to judge unless you're getting other people to solve the thing regularly. Speaker in the chat said, definitely someone created a game all the way without feedback and did playtesting much too late. Yeah. I think you're probably right there. And it's something we see time and time again on the channel. It's like people think playtesting is something that you do at the end and you give people what you've made and go, what do you think? Do you like it? It's not something you do at the end so that people can either approve or disapprove of it. It's something you do throughout so that you can check that people understand what you're asking them to do. But it seems like there's some quite cool puzzle design here. Like, I'm generally... The feel of the character is good. It's just not giving us much information about what we need to do, and it's not setting us up to succeed before we're asked to do a more challenging version of something. Like, that double jump puzzle should have had something to teach the jump before it that was a little bit shorter and simpler. This puzzle with the sliding stuff feels like a later iteration of a simpler puzzle. Like, if you've got a puzzle style like this in your game, the first time people encounter it should just be teaching them the interaction rules of like how this type of puzzle works. And then the next time you give it to people, maybe it can be almost as hard as this. But, you know, this is very, very difficult for a first puzzle in a game. You're cursed with knowledge of your own game, and it's made you make it too hard. And, you know, that's a classic thing we all do, but... Someone in the chat saying the double jump would be a good contender for something that you get later as a power-up. Yeah, I mean... But we've got lots of components here for a solid game in terms of how things look and feel. It's a little bit unintuitive. I don't really understand why we've got a mix of like machine created barrels and a pirate ship and stuff on this island, and then we're playing as like a native person. I'm not sure what the world is here, because if you do a similar thing in an anthropomorphic setting, it doesn't matter, because we know that Donkey Kong Country doesn't exist in our world, right? So Donkey Kong Country can have this mix of stuff because it's just broadly tropical, whereas here it seems that we're playing as a human being on Earth, right? Which is why it feels a bit strange to have this cannon here. It's like, this is a... Did the colonizers brought this cannon here for me to use? And now I'm going to blow up the pirate ship with it? So it's a post-colonial revenge fantasy mode now? If the music feels inappropriate, it's because I put the music on, because there's no music. Is that a health bar for the ship up there? It's moving. Why wouldn't I be blowing up the ship? I think it's a health bar. There we go. Yeah. Here we go. Take that, ship. Yeah, unfortunately I can't point the cannon at the door puzzle, which is... Damn it. I think we've got double music. I think the game has just decided to introduce some music at that point. I'm not sure. You know, the interface is pretty sparse, but I like this layout. I think this is quite nicely put together. It feels like it fits with the game very well. I'm going to give this puzzle one more try. At least it seems to reset in some way, I think. So I'm clicking on them and then WASDing around to get them to move. I think the position of this little one is going to be like key here, but I'm not totally sure. It's got that kind of cursed feeling that I get from Rubik's Cubes, where I just can't possibly imagine how anyone can do them rationally without just randomly doing stuff and hoping something happens. Maybe it's just something to do with how my brain works, but I can't look at something like this and think ahead. All I can do is like look at maybe a particular piece and work out how to free it so that it can be moved around or something. I can't really... Yeah, I can't think ahead in this kind of thing and work out how you actually do it quote-unquote properly. Definitely feels like the sort of thing I would go to a guide for if I came across this in a bigger game. So yeah, it looks closer to finished, but I don't trust it. Don't trust it to be finished just because it looks like it might be closer to finished, because I know how these things work and they lie. Hang on. If I can get that all the way over there, can I get that off entirely? Okay, that doesn't come off entirely. The center bar needs a 2 bar, yeah. So I think what my salsa is saying in the chat is absolutely correct. This level of difficulty of puzzle, 80% of the way through the game. I totally agree with you there. This is like the hard version of this puzzle that should be at the end of the game after you've done it for... You've done lots of simpler ones. Point and click ass puzzle. Oh dear. Yeah, it's So yeah, make at least 4 more of those puzzles and make them lead up to that level of difficulty. Robin said they find these unsatisfying. I find it unsatisfying as well because I don't really feel like I did anything there except trying. It feels like I brute forced it by just trying random stuff. I didn't feel like I ever could see that I was 2 or 3 steps away. It was only right at that last 2 moves that I realised I was even completing the puzzle. Do I need to put someone in there? Is that why I needed to blow up the ship up? I needed the ship to drop some Europeans, and now I get to put one of them in here. Is this a full-blown... yeah, that's not a cool piece of symbolism. I think, really, overall, the person needs to think about the tone of this game, because it kind of looks like a colourful, welcoming... Again, I'm going to mention it, Crash Bandicoot type game. And yet we're doing... I mean, cannons are okay as like a cartoon weapon of war, right? I can imagine... Look at it this way. Would there be a cannon in Skylanders? Absolutely. Skylanders can have as many cannons as it wants. Cannons on ships. We can have a Skylander with a cannon for an arm. All those types of things. Would Skylanders have a cage? Yeah, probably. I think Skylanders would have a cage. Someone could be in a cage in Skylanders. As long as they weren't, like, being beaten with a sock full of marbles, like they were in a sort of, on some kind of family holiday with the Mansons. Would we have stocks in Skylanders? I think so. I think when a Skylander has been naughty, we would put them in the stocks and maybe throw things at them. We probably wouldn't, like, put them in there and then cut off their fingers and toes like they're being tortured by Jack Bauer in 24. Would we have a noose and the concept of hanging or being hanged in Skylanders? I don't think we would. I think that's probably crossing a line even at just the level of suggestion that it exists in the world. Yeah, I don't think anyone has ever been hanged in the Skylanders universe. And that's not just because Spyro is a dragon, which makes him impossible to hang. I don't know if you've ever tried to hang a dragon. They just sort of like flap for hours and hours until they get exhausted. So, yeah, hanging is not a good thing to have in a cartoony game, both because of the insinuation of hanging people as a really brutal form of execution, and because it's a way that people kill themselves, which people don't want to think about for lots of perfectly good reasons. So we blew up the ship, and now the ship is all over the place. Where's my, do I have the live chat open? Can we do a poll? Can I start a poll? Yeah, let's do a poll. Sorry if you're on Twitch, we're having a quick YouTube poll moment. I think Horrible Histories gets away with that kind of stuff because it's the BBC and it's sort of fundamentally educational. And there's a sort of unwritten thing that we're engaging with children's love of the grotesque in order to teach them about history, which is not really the same. This is why like offense is always about context, and like whether something's upsetting is always about context. And if you've ever seen Brass Eye, where there's that one where he meets that art critic and he keeps changing this picture and going, is that offensive now? Is that offensive now? And he's just got all of these elements on a big collage and he's moving them around. He's got like an actual BBFC sensor. And he's just keeps changing it and then asking him if it's offensive. And it's kind of an arbitrary set of things, but it's still interesting to watch because context changes how people feel about things. I think Bubba As You had some wonderful aha moments, but I played it when it came out and I haven't gone back to it because it made me feel dumb. I think why puzzle games are so hard to develop and why they're so hard to playtest, because you need to work out like how stupid you're okay with making people feel. Right, we need to move on to the next one soon, but right, so those are like kind of markers telling me what to do. What value was there to destroying the ship? The ship put all of this stuff in the water that created this new platform puzzle that leads nowhere. So it looks like there's two components I need. I need to somehow make there be something to go over to via all of those ship debris. All of the stuff to do with like dropping stuff in the sea and then it becomes a pathway is not very intuitive because, again, it's that problem of if you've... I know it's visually stylized, but it's still not full-blown cartoon because we've got a human dude, right? If this was very silly and Donkey Kong Country or Skylanders-esque, I think you'd be a bit more justified of having, oh, you drop some stuff in the sea and then it goes exactly where you need, right? But because we're being a dude... We're being a dude that looks like he's from a National Geographic documentary... It means that the game doesn't suggest that level of absurd cartoon logic. This is kind of where the character design and everything plays into how people interpret the game mechanics. Because if you have much goofier... Like, if that happened... If what happened in Paperclay that I was playing a couple of months ago, I would be totally fine with it. But because we're a dude on an island... just seems like it's going to work in a different way. Leads to the ladder, okay. I just picked up a steering wheel. Yeah, quite. I mean, you got to remember, the reason I do these streams is to give people game design and UX feedback. So if I don't get it without reading chat, then that's the problem with the game. Q and R. Excuse me. Oh, thanks. So, I kind of feel that it's a bit cheeky to try and describe this game as being relaxing, because you've just absolutely trolled me. That wasn't relaxing. Maybe they called it relaxing on purpose because they want it to be rage bait and they want to set me up to be more ragey. I think the reason I don't have any affinity to rage games is that I don't really rage out at games. So I can't really experience them for what they are. Whenever I've tried to play something like Getting Over It, I'm just like, yeah, this is annoying, I'm turning it off. Whereas people that are capable of getting really emotionally het up about not being able to do the game are going to at least get some kind of emotional experience out of that, which I don't. I just go, oh, definitely something better I could be doing with my time than this. And then I could go and do something else, like eat a yogurt or punch the ground, write a poem about a dog. There's so many better things I could do with my life than play a rage game. And I understand people like them, but that's because those people are emotionally volatile. And so they get something out of it, because it lets them be their true selves. Whereas for me, it just feels alien. And like I'm playing a... There we go. I put the ladder in my pocket. I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed, yeah. Disappointment games should be a new genre. They're for rage games, but for people that have been to therapy. Although that sounds more like passive aggression than necessarily being emotion. You know, the I'm disappointed thing is a bit more kind of passive aggressive, isn't it? Rather than... So, Dev, if you're watching this, there's lots of feedback in the chat about the jumps and how clear and legible they are. I'm not struggling too much with jumping generally, but I do think having a shadow is going to help people make those water jumps particularly. So you need to think about, that shadow that we have is like a kind of realistic world shadow cast by the sun. Most 3D platformers have a little spot shadow on the ground, even if it's unrealistic, because that shadow is more important to the gameplay than the one that makes the world look nice, you know. Ah, yes. A slightly better wheel. Just a smaller wheel. I think if you want to kind of create the logic chain that this is a better wheel that's not going to break, you need to make it like metal or something. Ah, finally. Pirate treasure. Just what I've always wanted. Nice cereal bowl in there. I don't want to imagine the wheel breaking again. Do VTubers have cereal bowls? Is that a thing? I did nearly become a VTuber. I found the software too fiddly to use. Skullgruel is a good sort of sludge metal band name. Dude, are you gonna go and see Skullgruel tonight? Here they're gonna play one song for 45 minutes. Sorry, Empirical Fun, for the the confusing poll. Did I put a time limit on the poll? Oh, wow. I'm going to end the poll now. Sorry, Soccerban fans. Soccerban loses the poll. We were having a very sensitive discussion about how a colourful, cartoony game shouldn't have any references to hanging in it. And then someone in the chat said that they preferred hanging to Soccerban puzzles, and hence that needed to happen. I will move on to another game in a second. For all the negative things we've said about this, I had an okay time with it. Generally speaking. The double jump, you need the double jump for everything thing is stupid, right? If we're going to have a double jump, the character needs some sort of magical or technical reason why they could do it. Like a little puff of VFX when we do the second jump. A little shadow so we can aim. Everything in this game is too hard for the first try at the thing. It feels like you've got a decent set of components in some of the puzzles and the jump puzzles, but this needs to be like the last bit of the game, and then you need 2 more sections before this where you teach all of those things. I would also strongly advise turning this character into an anthropomorphic animal, because the theming, the level of gruesomeness of like the skulls, the hanging, the weird mix of tribal stuff and tropical pirate stuff, it all goes together visually as art assets, but it doesn't go together in a game where you're playing as a human. You can get away with mashing all this stuff up into a generic tropical setting in Donkey Kong Country or Mario Kart or whatever, but you can't get away with it with people, I don't think. It just doesn't make sense, and it comes off as a little bit potentially offensive. And that's putting it very lightly. Right, we're doing some chess now. Some sort of chess thing. Beyond the board. What a lovely start screen. This has got a lovely kind of visual style. Let's just see what the dev said about it. No notes. Beyond the Board is a minimalist puzzle adventure set in a fractured chess universe. Think Monument Valley meets Limbo, but you're a chess piece caught between 2 sides. One devoted to the board, the other desperate to escape it. So, chess kind of feels like it has one of those similar stigmas to Gravity. I talked about earlier. It's weird to say that Gravity can have a stigma, but kind of what I was talking about earlier of like, there are certain themes that feel like they're going to be inherently beginnerish because they're used so often. And chess variations feels like that. Gravity gimmicks feel like that. But the thing that this game is doing is straight off the bat hitting us with this beautiful start screen, and that gets rid of my worries about it being a chess gimmick, because it's like, okay, we've got some other stuff working for it here. It's not just chess because it's someone's first game or whatever, you know? That was a good start. Interesting. Okay, so I can rotate with the right mouse button, and then I can move. Uh-oh. Hello. Am I just following you that way? Is that what we're doing? Use the right button to rotate the camera. Wow, look at this. I can see the Monument Valley vibes. This is immediate. What's the Apple Arcade thing? This is going to be like a iPad smash hit for all the iPad gamers out there. It was shake. Do you know how rare it is for me to find an indie game on this channel that has controller vibration integration? And just then, it was vibrating the table, and I was playing with the mouse and keyboard, and I was like, this sound design is really immersive, and it was because the table was being shaken by the controller. Okay, I'm going to try and play with the controller and see how that works as well. What was I... Hang on, am I supposed to step on that symbol there? Hold left button to keep moving. Okay, that's interesting. It's giving me instructions for... I'm playing with the gamepad now, but it's giving me instructions to use the mouse. Ah, I see. There was a countdown there. So I trigger the button. The button has a countdown until something else happens. Robin said, can we look at the marketing afterwards? Yes, we totally can. Oh, this is already a bit brain melty. So we get over here. So I didn't get over here quick enough. So I can do that in one move. Oh, so, okay, so what's happening is I need to trigger everything and get back round in time in order to get across the puzzle. But what I was doing is I was making one move onto this button and then going round. And I think if I just click here, I will press the button in that one No, I went across it. I flew across it. So you do move like a chess piece in the sense that it's like you're being picked up and put on the other thing. I think that needs to be clearer because you kind of slide along the floor and that gives you the impression that if I move here, I'll trigger that button. But it doesn't work like that, so... See? So I don't have enough moves to get across. Let's go and see what this says. Step on the switch to reset. We need to deal with this stuff getting in the way of the camera when we move the thing around. It's a beautiful game, but this is not good for a game where we control the camera. Oh, I see what we need to do. Right, I think we need to actually press this, get this to move over to the left, and then come back on this to go across to the other side. So we go boop, 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 boop. No, that didn't work. There we go. Yeah, I think there's some smoothing that could be done with the camera rotation and just stuff, you know, making stuff see-through. What is it called? Is that what occlusion culling is? I always don't know what that is because I don't make 3D games and I don't want to. But yeah, stuff that's in the way of the camera. Symbols up on the wall. Interesting. That's... Switches speak in sequence. I think that is a clue for this puzzle as opposed to being like a general thing about the game. We don't need the whole steps to get up there, do we? We just need that one and the top one, I think. So we actually only need these two. Again, I'm sort of getting into that territory where I feel like I'm going to have to brute force everything. Yeah, camera really needs some thought, I think. Yeah, I don't know if it's a good sign of a good puzzle game. I think you want to ease people in a little bit more into the way of thinking that the game requires you to do. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I think whatever the difficulty is in your game, whether it's puzzles or action or whatever, it's good to start off with, like, imagine the scale of difficulty in your game and the thing you make at the beginning is like 1, 5 and 10, right? And then you can go back and you can fill out all of the stuff. Like the last game we played, it was like it started at 5 or 8 and it needed some stuff filled in before that to teach people the game. This kind of feels roughly similar. I don't think that's a bad place to be in. I think lots of games end up in that stage. But yeah, this is already breaking my brain a little bit and we're not very far in. Everything's just so interlinked in a specific way. Maybe we're supposed to go around the buttons more than once in order to get them to have a particular order. So this is the bottom one. I need to learn which one is which. What? That's 1, that's 2. This one is the top. So they go 1, 2, 3, 4, around that way. So maybe we need to start on 2, so that... I think I did that, though. I think I did that before. If I go there, then we get all the way to the top. Did it. Yeah. You're right, Dimitro. That was the issue. I was climbing the wall, and actually we needed to get the stairs set up and then go straight up the stairs in one move. I keep thinking we're playing the gravity game from earlier, because I keep thinking that turning around a thing will count as another move, but it doesn't. It's a rook, so you go in a straight line. Okay. Similar thing again. That one needs to be done last, I think. So that. I'm trying to work out what that line down the middle is helpful for. I guess... Why would you need that one? Or maybe you don't. Maybe that's the point. Maybe that's the point of that puzzle, is you don't need to activate the one that comes up the middle, because... Oh, we've got some optional stuff over here. Who's this? It's very cool. Big fan of this game already. I think that most of the issues we're seeing are to do with the cameras. The puzzle design is very cool. Oh! Wasn't expecting that to happen. Hello, mate. That felt kind of brutal. Something about shape-based characters that are just like interacting in a very simple way. It's that kind of Thomas Was Alone type vibe going on there as well, with that standoff with that other chess piece. That felt really mean, what I just did. Pushing that guy. Yeah, making him walk the plank. Look at this. This is like when you get a Lego set, like a fake Lego set from Alibaba Express or whatever, and it's got a really bad manual. It looks like this. Dodgy angles. I really like the fact that we're only being judged by did we complete the puzzle. There's nothing here that's going, oh, you've taken this number of steps that's stressing me out, you know? We just get to enjoy the aesthetics of the game and solving the puzzles. Use your light. Use your light, what does that mean? Does anything change when I'm near the water? It's interesting because some bits are puzzles and some bits are just sort of like mood driven. You explore a little bit and something triggers. There's quite a nice... You know, in the first game I was talking about pacing and how the 2D flat levels and the 3D depth levels gave a nice kind of structure to the game because you did one type of thing and then you took a break and did another type of thing. This is doing a similar push and pull, except it's between, like, you're stuck in a puzzle and you have to solve it to pass, and then there's a bit that's a bit more like a traditional action adventure game where you're just sort of exploring and finding the way to the next bit. That's a really nice push and pull in this game because it's allowing us to not just see it as an abstract puzzle to game and lets it feel more like this big immersive explore the space type adventure game. I really, really like that, and I guess that's kind of one of the things that Monument Valley did as well, but it's been so long since I played it. It's like 10 years now that I don't really recall so much about that kind of stuff in Monument Valley. Right, so we're making you walk the plank now, are we? Is that the plan here? Swearing at me in his chess language, saying, don't do that. Huh. I didn't know you could do that. I think it's smartened up since the last one. Was it so hard to murder a piece of wood? You had to do the hokey pokey with them a little bit. The old chess hokey pokey. Wow, that's cool. Very, very cool. Have I broken this area because I was... Oh no, okay. We go up there? Is that what we're doing? That's not helpful. Have I played Go? Every time I try and learn Go, I break my brain. So many little quirks of how it works. Oh, hang on. It won't let me jump back to that puzzle. I think this is a linear one-shot game. I mean, it doesn't seem to have checkpoints, which is a shame. So I'll just rush through the bits we already did. I think what I needed to do there was not murder that other chess piece and use it to solve the rest of the puzzle. But the game tricked me. But it does mean that we can go a different way now. I'm using the D-pad because the gamepad controls for this are strangely intuitive. Yeah, so it seems like this version of the game has all of this stuff in place, but it doesn't have like checkpointing or anything like that, which is why we've got thrown back to the start. Not a soft lock so much, just the fact that I wanted to reset the puzzle. Yeah, I did get a soft lock, and then I wanted to reset the puzzle when I accidentally restarted the game. This is a little bit quicker with the mouse. It's getting me. There we go. It's all about where you click. Sometimes you need to go past something rather than onto it. So it's that one last, isn't it? Yeah, I think I remember this one. We'll go back. That one, that one, that one, that one. There. B. Okay, so that's the 5. This one gives you the longest. 5, 4, 3. Ah! Oh dear. Yeah, it's very strange that everything is sort of telling you to use the mouse, and then there's like rumble pad stuff going on the controller, even if you're not using it. So last time we went up here and then we went that way, but it looks like there's a different way we can go, so... Maybe we can't, maybe this is just a... We can come back that way later. Uh-oh, it's a Metroid Brainia. Looks like we got a Metroid Brainia here. I think the reason why this is a rare example of a doing chess but different game that doesn't feel daft is that the chess doesn't really matter. It's just there to give us a reason to move in a straight line, because the other chess pieces haven't really don't really factor into this. Maybe they will do later on, but I get the feeling this is just a game about moving a rook. Need to move on to the next game soon. Right, so I think what I did wrong here is... Oh no, I did need to murder them to get the next bit to open. So that was a good murder. I misjudged what happened here. So I thought I'd soft locked myself because I needed this character to do the next bit, but I hadn't. I suppose the movement rules of the other characters factor into how they dodge you when you jump onto them, right? This is where we got to before. So, I only get one press on there, and I can't do anything else. But what I could do... What happens if I... Do I just slide off if I go there? Ah, interesting. Okay. That's very interesting. I block the mechanism. That's really cool. And now I can click up there and move up there in one move. I've got a delay on the chat, so it's really funny looking back at the chat and people have like a very sure idea of how something works, and then it's like I've already solved it and it was a completely different thing. IDSG, there is a thing on the screen about how to submit games nearly all of the time. You can see it throughout the stream, so if you want to submit a game, it's there. Don't try and submit a game in chat. If you do it more than once, I'll ban you. Why are they up there? What does that do? How does that benefit us? Is this we need to use the other character to press the button type puzzle? Is that block your way down? Interesting. Huh. There's something about this movement that makes it really feel like kind of you're walking with a gun to their back. Feels really personal even though it's chess pieces. Right, what has that, how has that benefited us in any way? How does that work? Block your way down. I mean, I can't see anything down. Is there supposed to be something that I can... Oh, hang on. Right, if there's a piece on here, then it gets stuck. I guess. This is really mind-melty. I think what I'm supposed to do has something to do with that mechanic we just saw about blocking the movement of the thing. So if I push them onto there... Huh. But what does that achieve? I mean, it's funny. But they're stuck. I can't really work out what it wins us. In the big scheme of the puzzle. Yeah, let's see if we can resolve this one, and then I will stop, because it's going to be possible to spoil too much of this game. Okay. Is that progress? Oh, all we're supposed to do is get them off the board, isn't it? That's what we're trying to do in these puzzles, so... So how do we use this mechanic that we've just set up to push them off the board? Because that's what needs to happen. Huh. That seems a bit wrong. What's going on here? I think this isn't intended. I don't think this is a game state we're supposed to be able to get into. This is how baby chess pieces are made. When a white rook and a black bishop love each other very much. I feel it's very hard to tell whether I've broken it or not. Let's go and trigger the button one more time. I think I might have completely broken it. Yeah, possibly. Right, we're going to move on. That's intriguing. But even if I could solve this puzzle, I don't know what proportion of that game we should play, because it's just spoilering the whole thing for people who would play it. A Simple Experiment. Cat game. Cat game, cat game, cat game. What do we hear? The game has already gone through a playtest, and most suggestions were added to the current version. It had very few players, and some of them didn't seem familiar with Metroidvania games or even platformers in general. I feel the game still needs a more in-depth look, especially considering it's a bit of an oddity. Okay, cool. Metroidvania about being a cat. Was it the king? For some reason, the cross on the top of the head made me think it was a bishop, but of course it was a king, yeah. Oh, I missed that. Catroidvania. The alien. It says I can stick to the wall, but I need to run at it, do I? Am I supposed to run? Oh, there's a running animation. Okay. I just run at the wall, and I just go up it. Okay. That's really unintuitive. You saw how many times that took me to kind of get right. If I run at a wall, I can just kind of run up it. I can look up and down. That shows me other stuff. Oh, it's kind of rough. Like, look at this object collision with that platform. The platform is drawn to be this kind of like 3D extending thing, but then the characters are all totally flat from the side. It's, I don't know. It's a little bit painful kind of knowing where things start and stop in space and all of the collision and stuff like that. Is that a platform or is that... They do look like human legs, you're right. I'm just gonna let myself get seen because... That is a wall, is it? Yeah, that's... Oh, I see. Yeah, that's totally unclear. That, like, dark grey bit there. It's just not visually clear enough. Run up the wall on the left. Okay. This game has a very unclear visual language. This whole thing of having these, like... These walls that go like this, and you see them from the side... it's not really achieving anything apart from being visually confusing. Right, I'm supposed to walk around there, but there's a thing in the way. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to keep at this, folks. This is such a weird set of controls, and the way that objects in the environment are kind of indicated for use is super unclear. Like, why... I'm supposed to be running and then walking around. Okay. The kind of snapping on the corners is not very kind of clear or easy. But yeah, there's a problem with how the walls are rendered in this game. It makes it hard to... There's a reason why we do a full cutaway in platformers, even if they're in a kind of realistic setting. I mean, if we look at like... If we look at one of the Abe games, it's probably a good reference for what they're trying to do here, right? They're trying to do a platformer, but with slightly more kind of realistic setting and everything. But even in something like Abe's Exodus, you still see things from exactly the side on. And when you do see the wall at that angle, it's like the edge of a level. You see it here as well. Like, there's a little bit of an angle on that wall. And there. But in the game that we're currently looking at, you have these angled walls, and they're not very, like, distinct from the bit that's the actual bit you collide with. Just look at how soft everything is in terms of, like, all of this shading, this greyness. It's moody, it looks nice, but where are the edges of things that let me know what is what and everything? Okay, we've got a door here that I can kind of walk halfway into. We can go up here. I can jump across. That's cute. Okay. Quite unresponsive jump there. Yeah, I think maybe saying the issue is that your playtesters haven't played Metroidvanias is not really the issue here. There's some really unresponsive controls. Going from the run into the jump doesn't... I think maybe it's just you're lacking coyote time. Which, to be fair, my platformer did not have until very, very recently. Alright, little guys, you have no reason to wish me luck on this. I pressed skip. I didn't mean to press skip. I'd like to start by thanking the Innovation Board for receiving me. It's an honor to be here. You found cats. Aliens. Like, how am I supposed to... What's the visual tell that lets me know that that is a... Oh. That is a standable object. That's sync. Right? There's no consistent design language for which objects in this game are platforms and which aren't. I can kind of guess that next pipe is going to be a platform. But if that pipe is a platform, then why isn't this thing here a platform? You kind of just drawn things as they are and not thought about how you communicate what the interactions are. You need to almost... The game needs to just work as a series of abstract objects and not all of these sort of illustrative elements, which is what they currently are. Look. Really confusing sense of the depth and everything. Yeah, the game finished before it started. Yeah, way too many art assets made. Way too much polish in the wrong places before just making sure that people can do the core interactions of the game. You know, the example I would always use is, I think when a game has story in it, like characters speaking and stuff, if a game has that amount of stuff in it that's like end content of the game, and it still has problems with how the character moves up around and stuff, that is a game that has been developed completely arse backwards. Because you shouldn't even be at the point... If you've got an action game with some story in it, you shouldn't be at the point where you're adding story and cutscenes until you know that the action game works. Like, so the issue of, oh, the playtesters didn't understand the game and all of that kind of stuff. You shouldn't have a game in this state before giving it to playtesters. You should be playtesting the game with no story, minimal art, all of that stuff to make sure that the mechanical interactions work before you move on to this full production stage of like adding a story and stuff like that into a game. I know I'm kind of harping on the same things I say every single time, but to me it's a massive red flag when a game has fundamentally broken movement mechanics and a bunch of effort put into the story, because it does feel like the game has been rushed to be something resembling a finished game before it's been tested with people, and you should test the mechanical interactions before you add any story. The only case where you need to put story into a game that early is when it is predominantly a story game, like a visual novel, and then you're not really playtesting, you're just seeing if people like the writing, right? I love the concept. I like the idea of cats versus aliens generally. It's just had too much effort put into the wrong places, I think. Right, so when we stand on there, something happens. Not sure what that's supposed to communicate. I've only been taught to do the little run around the corners and the jump. I don't have any other thing I can do. Go back up here, I guess, because... oh. There we go. It opened that time. I needed to run onto it, I guess. Not sure. Not sure why that didn't open and then it did. Not unreliable mechanics that don't always operate the same way. This looks like it's got like a... I can see there's some sort of blue thing. Okay. I'm throwing my babies at the thing. That's fun. Very silly, but fun. Can you see how long it took for that to show up as a... as that indicator to show up in the first place, though? It was... That's the first time we've used that throwing the kittens mechanic. And it's cute. But it needs to be clearer the first time round. It's me, I'm the dangerous species. The writing's fun. Although I don't feel super compelled to read that writing on the screen when I'm trying to do a really not great feeling jump puzzle. So there's something happening to me in terms of my controls with my hands here that I need to talk about. So I need to hold down B to sprint, and then I need to press jump to jump. But I need to have them... I can't switch from pressing sprint to jump because there's no coyote time. So in order to do the jumps, I'm having to claw my hand this way and use the controller like this, because it just doesn't feel responsive enough to do a running jump with just my thumb. I'm having to hold the controller like this with my right hand to do B and the jump button together. And that seems to be the only way to make it work. And again, it's just a case of like, this is stuff that should be figured out before you do much art, before you do level design, before you have a story in your game. Because if this stuff doesn't work, you don't have a game. You know, so the issue here isn't the playtesters or that people haven't played a Metroidvania. The issue is that you've made a game about jumping around where jumping around doesn't work. You know, it's a much more basic thing than people understanding the game. It's that the mechanics in the game don't work as you'd expect them to work in a similar game. And some of that is due to the visuals and the lack of clarity about what is a platform. You know, we've got some objects where there's this illusion of depth where we can see the sides of walls, and then we've got other objects where they're just floating, some objects where you're jumping around on the stuff that's on the back of a wall. It's just completely inconsistent. And this is one of the reasons why platformers traditionally and conventionally aren't set in real places. They're set in quite abstract places. And you can go, oh, this is a sewer or this is a space station, but it's still fundamentally made of blocks. Because as soon as you start trying to make it look like a real place, I know Metroidvanias do that a little bit more, but even like something like Symphony of the Night is quite abstract. Even Hollow Knight is relatively abstract in terms of the places that are being represented as the levels. It is still a series of platforms and stuff like that. I don't think this game has a consistent enough visual language for how the collisions and the jumpable objects work in terms of what you see that lets you know that that is a thing you can jump on. And there's no coyote time on the jump. The way that the run into the jump transitions feels really bad and is making me do painful things with my hands. So I'm going to stop that one there because I don't think I have anything more constructive to say about it. And if I focus too much on other things, the developer is not going to see the most important things there, which is that you need to go back to the drawing board with the platformer controls. You need to go back to the drawing board with the visual design of the game, not in terms of the art style. You know, people will say, oh, you know, we've had some jokes in the chat about how the cats don't look good, how the legs of the cats don't look good. You know, you need to work with whatever skills you've got, but the visual communication side of things, of being able to see where the collidable surfaces are, is the most important thing to get right first before you do any of this set dressing and thematics and stuff like that. Yeah. And also, yeah, Mickey said it's not a Metroidvania so far, it's a linear platformer. So, yeah. I'm going to leave it at there for today because I've run over a bit longer than I intended to do. Thank you so much. I should be moving soon, so there's a chance that I won't have streams on next week, but we'll see what happens with that. That's one of the reasons why I did extra ones this week. So, yeah. I mean, we've had a cat platformer before that felt very good, but they were using like click and pounce controls, which worked very well. We had something like that come out of Collab Jam, where you used WAS to control the cat, and then occasionally you could do like a pounce jump that was like a really nice leap forward. But yeah, it's interesting because we got the running on walls mechanic. See, the game encouraged me to play with the gamepad, which I would always expect from a platformer. But the thing is, the controls on the keyboard actually work better than the gamepad, because pressing shift to run and pressing space and still pressing WAS works, right? Whereas on the controller, I need to press A and B at the same time, and my thumb is not that big. So controller mapping is all about ergonomics, and although, yeah, you should probably allow people to eventually remap their controls and stuff and do what they want, getting the initial setup for the controls right in your game is about ergonomics and where are people's hands. And if you've ever got a game where someone goes from doing this, from doing this with this side of the controller to doing this, then you've probably got something wrong with your mapping, you know? Right. Thanks, folks. I will see you all soon. I'm going to hop on the VOD on YouTube and add the timestamps to the games, and I will also add the links to the games if they are public playtests. I think the only one that wasn't today was the first one, the Gravity Whip game. So thanks for joining today.